Hello, and welcome to Leadership as a Philosophy, Not a Checklist. And today's conversation is going to be about two things, integrity and value. The reason this one's going to be a little bit different format instead of a story about specific leaders is, one, it's in response to a question/comment from one of my viewers. Second is because it's something I've actually been wrestling with for a few months. And when the question was asked, I said, "Ooh, let me apply this idea." Again, it's not my idea. You'll understand in a minute. And then I realized, this answers the question, but it's not just an answer specifically tailored to this. It is an answer for most of these things. And it's actually something that's useful, not just in leadership, but in life. So, quick story time. Many years ago, I was in the Army. I was a captain, and I went to this course. And it was a course on how to be good at doing papers and briefings and whatnot. And there was a guy that was our instructor, and I did not resonate with him in the slightest. He had a big ego, but he also was, I don't know, I didn't learn anything from him. And I was I just got to get through the class, right? And I had nothing, I don't remember anything else about this guy. But one day we were doing something, and he said, "Remember, resources follow priorities." Now, I don't know why, but I went back that night, I think it was Monday Night Football, and it was cold outside, and I was sitting there watching football. And all of a sudden I went, oh my goodness, that is so profound. It's true, it's correct. Priority, resource. If it's a priority, then it demands resources. Time, attention, money, anything else, anything that you're spending a resource on is obviously a priority. So priorities consume resources. The other thing is, I heard a phrase several years ago, which was basically, if you want to see what somebody's really up to, don't listen to what they say, watch what they're doing. Because whatever they're doing is the priority. So we're going to take that and apply it to a couple of different things. So if you have an organization and you say that you value I'm just going to use some random things. So you value A, B, and C, but you spend all of your time doing D, well, then those values are useless. And so let's just say that you go and look up any corporate entity, and it says, we value swift thinking and rapid responsiveness and incredible diligence, just a bunch of flowery words. Well, then they promote somebody and fire them because they were abusing the people. So clearly, at some point, you value people being treated correctly. So put that as a value. Make it explicit, because then people understand. You see somebody that they'll go and say that on the opposite side, you'll see where they'll go and say, we value people over everything else. And then they put some tyrant person that's perfect at making money in charge and abuses the people, but they're making money so they don't care. Well, then say that's your priority. So I hope that makes sense. If you have a value and you're applying a resource to it, that's a priority. Resource or priority and value, a couple of different things. I mean, basically the same thing. I've got some notes, so I had to do this because, let me look at my notes, make sure I'm doing the right place. Yeah, so watch what people are doing, what's actually going on, and then you're going to understand their priorities, where the resources are going. Okay, next, let's talk about Cambridge University, because Cambridge University is on everybody's mind right now because of this recent craziness that was going on there. Well, let's look at their priorities. So here, I've got it in my head, but let me say it right. So their priorities are freedom of thought and freedom from discrimination. And then they have some other sub-values that are basically, we want people to have lots of opportunity to take lots of classes and do lifelong learning. Well, that's their values. So freedom from discrimination and freedom of thought. So if that's what they're focused on, then why should we be surprised that they were doing something where they were trying not to discriminate, except for they overly discriminated? Now, the reason that I think this outrage is brewed is because that's their actual values. Those are the weirdest values ever. I, here at Cambridge, and over my life, and I'm sure most other people that know about Cambridge, think highest academic standards, highest levels of integrity, the absolute best scholars, and all this, the absolute top pinnacle of education and knowledge and teaching and all this sort of stuff. That's what we think they value. And so the reason all this outrage has happened is because they're not explicit with their values. I know you think that we care about integrity, but we don't. We care about freedom from discrimination and freedom of thought. So that's where the conflict comes in, okay? So in the example we used with the Navy commanders, they promoted some people in charge, but they didn't look at their ability to take care of people, so they shouldn't have fired them for not taking care of their people, right? If you value it, then you reinforce it, or you reward it, or you punish the stuff that you don't value. And so when you look at what Cambridge says they value, just look at what they did. What they value at all costs is to have some sort of minority diversity thing, and then even when they get found out that it was fraudulent and a lie and all this sort of stuff, they're still going to defend it because that's what they value. That's it. They haven't said anything about scholarship. They haven't said anything about education. So it's kind of a smack in the face. Now, you go look at something like Harvard, because until a few years ago, I thought the same thing about Harvard. And Harvard is freedom from discrimination, academic excellence, or it's not freedom from discrimination, but it's something about discrimination and good teaching and some other sort of stuff. So if you notice, none of these schools value integrity. They never value academic integrity. We think they should, but they don't. Even in their in their actions and in their own words, they don't value these things. So why are we shocked? I mean, seriously, why are we concerned? And that's where the real problem is. So all these people that have this amazing reputation for being these wonderful fonts of knowledge and wisdom and yada, 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 they're not doing any of that. Now, you can take that and apply it to anything. You go to any organization. We're promoting people that are nothing but making money and backstabbers and lying because it makes our bottom line happen and it increases our stock value. Yeah, but your turnover is ridiculously high. People are miserable. People hate coming to work there. Well, we don't care about any of that. We just care, are we making money? Are we successful in the eyes of something? And then look at those same companies and go pull up their values, and you're going to see that they don't say that, or they might say they value people, but they don't. So that's why we also talk about integrity. You have to have integrity with your values. I value, somebody once I was listening to at a business meeting, I said, what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to take care of the employees, or are we supposed to make all these numbers? And the CEO said, and. You're supposed to take care of the employees and meet your numbers. And a little bit they back that up, but it takes a lot of work to sit there and say, hey, good job making your numbers, but you treated your people like garbage getting there, so you're fired. Or we're not going to put you there in the first place. Okay, now let's make sure I didn't miss anything. Like I said, I had to have a script for this one. I'm using my little whiteboard. Okay, so now let's talk about integrity for a minute. So what we have to look at is telling the truth and rewarding the truth is much better for you than rewarding a lie. So this professor that just recently took his own life, unfortunately, is the result of a chain of lies that were perpetuated and reinforced for years. So who was the first person that let that guy lie and get away with it. And then the next person, maybe that guy showed up or that professor showed up and they said, well, they said this, but we're kind of seeing nothing. I don't want to be the one that says no, so I'm going to lie. And then pretty soon everybody's lying. And then when suddenly the people, us, that aren't in that ivy tower, realize that there's a problem and catch this person in all of their lies, then the worst possible event happens. I mean, it's the worst possible thing. Well, how do you fix that? Well, you have integrity. You say, look, this isn't true. You don't get to work here if you're cheating. You don't get to work here. That's why I did my video a couple of years ago on the West Point cheating scandal. They kept some of those officers around. Something terrible is going to happen with one of those officers. I'm not being negative. It's just going to happen because they were allowed to lie. They were allowed to cheat and get away with it. And so if you have a standard where you say, look, you cheated, you can't be here. You lied, you can't be here. You faked your work, you can't be here. Well, that takes care of everybody, because this is the reason that I don't really want to talk about race, but holding different standards for different people doesn't help the different people. Go look at some of the people that are unbelievable, that are minorities or whatever you want to call them, that are unbelievable academics, unbelievable scholars, the best in their business. Well, they didn't get there by lower standards. And so when I say you hold a lower standard for somebody, it's the worst thing possible. Well, the worst thing possible is that they held this person to a lower standard, then everybody's like, oh my gosh, you let this person get away with that. And all the people that did that are the ones that are to blame. And the professor, because they lied, right? But there's a whole bunch of people that knew it was a lie and knew stuff was fake or didn't want to know, what is it? Commission by omission, I think. I'm saying that wrong. And so it's all because they valued having a fill in the blank and to be able to brag about it over integrity, over the truth, over honesty. And here's the result. And it's catastrophic, right? I don't even give a crap about any of the other stuff. Look, there's a whole bunch of things that I didn't get to do because I'm not that smart. And I don't walk around going, well, I need special exceptions for this stuff. So you shouldn't do it to anybody else. When you know the standards are impossible and hard, and then you achieve the impossible and hard, it's an unbelievable source of pride. But when suddenly it's, well, we're going to make an exception and we get this and we get that, well, then what? Right? There's a organization in the Army, United States Army, they're the extra special forces. They have a standard. A couple people know it, and you make it, you get considered. If you don't, you don't. And that's the peak and the best and the highest and the highest. And then there's still a bunch of people that don't make it through that. But you end up with the best. So just aim for the best, because most of us aim for the best. And then you end up with that sort of a thing. So it might seem like you're doing somebody a favor by setting a lower standard, but you're not. I think that's all that I had. Oh, questions. So let's ask the really uncomfortable question. And this is, Cambridge did this to themselves. Harvard did this to themselves. All the major universities that have done this. Who else? Right? Why should I believe any of the people that are coming out of those universities? Because you obviously did this and it was obviously your focus, which means you spend a lot of resources, which you're probably doing for a bunch of other people. So now your entire reputation that you were bragging about, like I said, Cambridge. Now I think Cambridge would go, it's a joke now. Because I don't have any way to know if any of these people have lied or done this. It's like we need to have 100% investigation of everybody's background, fire everybody that was cheating. Who knows how many people that is. But now you sit there and act all high and mighty. Well, I'm from Cambridge. Oh, okay. Well, how did you get in? Who did you know? Who did you bribe? What grievance did you use to get in? It's terrible. Anyway, like I said, slightly different. Let me check my notes again and make sure I covered everything. So it's value and priority, and you watch what people are doing and you see what they really value and what their priorities really are. That's the conclusion to this whole thing. But you can apply it everywhere. Just watch what somebody does. Yeah, and then the outrage comes from the conflict in value. So we think that these places are doing one thing, and you find out they're doing another, and then we're outraged. I mean, those people that like the Harvard, what was it? Harvard's worth millions and millions of dollars, and they're being unethical. So that's the video. Kind of complicated, kind of awkward. I'm sorry I bounced around a little bit. I'm not even sure it's 100% the correct idea, but it seems right. It feels right. Because if you say, here's what we value, then everything falls into a hierarchy underneath it. So you say we value the best, most outstanding, most rigorous scholarship. And everybody gets examined before they get a professorship job. Well, then nobody asks any questions because that's what you chose. But if you say, oh, we want flowers and lilacs and petunias and trees, well, then say so. Say, look, we're not doing the things you think we're doing this. And then people will be mad because what are you a university for? But they're not going to be all outraged. And then look at the damage that was done to this man because everybody allowed him to lie or participated in the lie or let the lie slide. Anyway, that's all I've got. I hope it was interesting. If you have comments, questions, like I said, email in the show description. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you very much.